In 1967, the Velvet Underground released their first album, The Velvet Underground and Nico. And my friend Jamie and I are going to talk about it on this episode of Records with Ray. What do you got there?
Okay.
Oh, I see it. I see her holding. I see you have something there. Jamie, what is it?
You'd be like, is that a banana in your pocket?
Is that a banana in your lap, or are you just happy to see me?
It's nice of you to ask, Ray. It actually is a banana in my lap. It is the Velvet Underground and Nico with the iconic Andy Warhol banana cover.
Okay. So that was the Velvet Underground's first album.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, what was their affiliation with Andy Warhol? Because obviously he's not a musician, he's an artist. But what was their connection?
So Andy Warhol was, he was a bringer together of people.
A bringer together-er.
Yes, exactly, a together-er. So he had the factory. There was an art performance thing, the Exploding Plastic Inevitable.
Yeah, that was down in St. Mark's Place.
Yeah, so that is a kind of the precursor to this, or maybe this sort of was like born out of that.
Okay.
I think some of the recordings were from it, or ideas were from it. So I think, like he didn't write the songs, he didn't play the music, he drew the banana for the cover. But he was really just sort of the piece of the puzzle that brought all the people together who made the album.
No, wait, did he put together the Velvet Underground? Or were they already a band that Lou Reed was already putting together?
My understanding is he sort of...
What I'm saying is, like, was he like the Malcolm McLaren of...
Yes, that's the perfect way to describe it as far as my understanding goes.
Gotcha. So. Well, let's talk about Nico. Because Nico is... Was she ever a part of the Velvet Underground, or is it literally with? Because I don't think she's on any other album.
No,
it's just this album.
Yeah, so she is like basically a guest.
Yeah, and even the album says the Velvet Underground and Nico.
Yeah.
So why did she not stick around, or was that always the plan? Was just like, okay, we're gonna have her sing, and she doesn't sing on all the tunes either.
No, she sings on I think 3 tracks.
Yeah.
I think honestly it was like sort of a vehicle thing. She was a German like supermodel and singer.
Yeah.
And so I think she was just sort of there, and they were like, hey, how about you do this? And I think, the way that the factory was in those days, there would just be all these different people with all these different like talents.
Yeah.
And they would just sort of like, hey, you and you, let's do this, and, let's do that. And so I think she was just sort of like, hey, you want to sing on these? Yeah.
Yes, I would. I can't even do a Nico impression.
I can't do a Nico impression either.
No, I wish I could, because I would totally do that.
I would love to karaoke something entirely as Nico. I don't even karaoke, but I think I could pull that off. Oh, tomorrow.
It's better than my invitation.
Well, I'm a girl, so I do have the benefit of having more of a voice.
But Nico doesn't have the highest voice in the world.
No, she really doesn't. And I don't want to say she's not a good singer, but I would say that by conventional standards,
not a good singer.
She doesn't really have a singer voice. And I'm saying that with love, because I also don't have a singer voice. I can't sing at all. I can sing alone in my car, but outside of that, no, nobody wants to hear that. But I kind of feel like Nico was probably like, I can sing really well in my car. And they were like, yeah, but we'll record you anyway.
Is that what she said to Lou Reed? Like, yeah, I should sing with you guys. Well, why? I sound good in my car. Yeah. What kind of music would you consider the Velvet Underground to be? Because they're very, very hard to classify. And especially this album, because it's very atmospheric.
It is.
It's a lot slower and a lot less noisier than their other albums.
I kind of describe the Velvet Underground as the Velvet Underground. I think that they had such a unique sound in their time. I mean, this was recorded in 1966.
Okay, wow.
Which is crazy to me. it sounds, I mean, if I put myself in a spot where, you know, like it's 1966, this would sound like stuff coming from another planet.
Yeah.
And talking about things that you didn't talk about in 1966.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're really, I mean, they were an experimental art band. And, you know, this is like really before
that's really painting with, and that's painting with broad strokes though, because God, there's a lot of elements. I mean, there's some stuff on that where it's like, it's just kind of like just percussion. Mm-hmm. And it's like
they're like making sounds. I mean, I don't know what, obviously there's conventional instruments on here too. I actually read something that they were like tuning their guitars like totally not right. But that's how they created a lot of the sounds, was like basically by using instruments in a way that was very different from how they were typically used, which makes sense because if you're making sounds that are entirely new, that's how you're going to do it.
Yeah. And from what I understand about the Velvet Underground is like, okay, you know, it's funny, like we change revisionist history. Yeah, there's a lot of people that, you know, like, oh my God, the Velvet Underground, they're so awesome. They're so, you know, they were so, such an influence on people. But from what I understand, back when the Velvet Underground was doing this thing, like no one really cared.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were a bunch of weirdos from New York City. You know, it was not commercially viable.
Do you think Lou Reed and John Cage would appreciate that you just called them weirdos?
I think they would love that I just called them weirdos. I think they would be like, fuck yeah, we're weirdos.
Lou Reed's in his grave like, what'd she say? How did you get into the Velvet Underground? Or why this album?
Okay, so actually Andy Warhol. So
Andy Warhol. You were hanging out with Andy Warhol in the factory.
I was at the factory.
And she's like, Jamie,
you should hear this.
You should check this album out. I did the artwork for it.
You like bananas, right? So Andy Warhol's my all-time favorite artist, like in the entire history of humankind. Andy Warhol's my favorite artist.
Yeah, I love Andy Warhol as well.
And so I had, just being the nerd that I am and always have been, I read a lot about Andy Warhol because it was something I loved. Therefore, I read a whole bunch about him. I read stuff he wrote, stuff about him, everything. So I knew that the Velvet Underground was this band that came out of the factory. I knew nothing about their sound. I knew nothing about anything other than what I had read, being the little nerd that I was. And I was probably, like, at this time, maybe 14 or 15. I actually found this record that is sitting in my lap right now. Yeah. I found it at a thrift store when I was, you know, in high school, probably 14, 15 years old. I recognized the cover immediately because I knew that Andy Warhol had done it. He had drawn that banana. Yeah. And so I recognized it and I was like, oh yeah, this is that band. And I bought it. And it was probably $1 or $2 because that's how much records were in thrift shops back then. I had no idea when I got home and put it on my record player. I had no idea what I was getting into. And I remember listening to it and being like, what the fuck did I just listen to?
In a good way or a bad way?
I think just in a what the fuck did I just listen to way. Like, not even with an actual, like, opinion on it. It was really just, like,
you hear Nico's voice and you're like,
what?
Do I love this or hate this?
Yes, exactly. And then I was like, okay.
And even Lou Reed isn't, like, the best singer either. No, he essentially talks his words.
I feel like a lot
There she goes. She's out on her knees again.
I feel like a lot of the bands that I like, though, are not conventionally good singers, which maybe, because I'm not either, maybe I just feel a kinship. No, but I remember, like, thinking, what the hell was that? And then, but I was like, but you know what? If Andy Warhol did it, it's good. Okay. And so I just continued to listen to it, not knowing still what the hell I was listening to. But I think in time, I actually grew to genuinely appreciate the music for what it was, for kind of the impact that it made on a lot of the music that I listened to, you know, at that time all the way up to now, like how much influence they had on the alternative music scene. And so there's songs on here that are some of my, like, songs where I'm just like, some days just like, I need to hear that. I must listen to Venus and Furs right now, you know? And for whatever reason, looking up a song like that online and listening to it stream is not like putting on the album and listening to it. And so when I have those times, like, I put the album on. And this is still, like, I've now owned this album for, like, over 20 years.
Wow. It's a long time.
Yeah. And it's still one that I put on every now and then. Heroin, I think, is still one of my favorite songs. And it's one of those songs where, man, I will put that on really loudly and just sort of close my eyes. And, well, I've never done heroin. I don't know what it's like to do heroin. But I know that when I, like, close myself off to the world and listen to that song, bodily changes happen. Like, I feel like this rush in, you know, this sort of, like, you know, it gives me feels.
Yeah, well, there's this, if you hear in the background, there's this beat that this boom bap boom bap boom bap boom bap,
like a heartbeat,
and it actually that's exactly what it's supposed to mimic. And then as he kind of brings up the vocals, it starts to build up and build up and build up, and then it kind of mellows out.
And you have this sort of, like, almost this feeling of, like, urgency and panic inside of you, but, like, you're, you know, it's just one of those songs that I can just, like, let it, you know, like, enter, you know, my psyche.
What would you say your favorite song on the album is? That
I think that is my favorite song on this album, just because it really does, like, it's a song I can feel. And there's, you know, there's only a handful of songs, I think, you know, that I have that sort of, like, visceral reaction when I hear it.
Yeah.
And if I just have it on in the car or whatever, it's not that way. But if I am listening to it with intention, you know, that's when I'm just like, dark room, loud, nothing and no one is around, and I just am, like, one with this song, and it's so good.
That's pretty much how I like to listen to the Velvet Underground, period.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, you know...
Jamie throws on her black leather jacket, she puts on her black shades. Where are you going? I'm going to listen to the Velvet Underground.
This is my Velvet Underground listening outfit. I think Venus and Furs is another one that just sort of has that, you know, it's a very close second. You know what's strange is
Heroin. It's my life and my wife. Yeah. That's my imitation of you listen to the Velvet Underground.
Shockingly, none of the Nico songs are on my list of favorites.
Yeah, I can't say I'm a fan. You know what's funny? You know who does Nico better? Stereolab. I remember when I first heard Stereolab, I'm like, is that Nico? And it isn't, obviously.
No.
I'm like, but she does a better job of Nico because she can actually sing. But I guess that's another conversation.
Yes. I just had a moment of, like, who does a better Yoko Ono? Because that's another person that's like, wow, you're on some really spectacular albums, but you really can't sing.
Yeah, well, I think that's where we need to end the conversation, because I don't want to go down that fucking road.
Nobody wants to go down that road.
No, yeah. Except John Lennon.
Yeah, but look what happened to him.
Yes. Yeah. That's why he got murdered. Someone wasn't a fan of Yoko Ono.
You broke the Beatles.
The person was aiming for Yoko when they shot him instead.
Oh my god. Now
I'm gonna get her. I'm gonna get that bitch.
Oops.
Oh, fuck, I got the wrong guy. Oh, shit.
We're going to hell now. You know that, right?
You killed John Lennon. You killed him. I didn't mean to. I was aiming after her.
She's the one that deserves to die.
I was after her. When I saw Two Virgins, I'm like, I need that's it. Some things you can't unsee. Hey gang, this is Ray, and I just want to say thank you very much for checking out my video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to see more videos, please click on the subscribe button. And if you like what you see, please give it a like. That would mean a lot to me. And if you're wondering why I'm wearing Hawaiian shirts, well, when I'm not talking about records, I'm talking about my other love, Tiki. I have a show called Tiki with Ray. If you want to check that show out, just search Tiki with Ray on YouTube. It'll come up.